Welcome back, everybody, and if it wasn't quite obvious, what we have to talk about today is the Azio Retro Classic Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. So I've been using these for a couple of months at this point, and have a good feel for what I think about them and kind of my thoughts on their place in the market at this point. So as a quick reminder, let's run down the specs. We have a Bluetooth and USB compatible keyboard alongside a Bluetooth and wireless capable mouse with multiple DPI settings, which I'll bring up and run through what the numbers are in just a second. The keyboard supports backlit keys, which is actually on now, although it's kind of bright in my studio. So the keys are designed to simulate a typewriter style keyboard, something we've looked at before with the Nanexia Encore Retro that's unfortunately no longer available. That was a fantastic keyboard. My wife stole it from me right away and actually has tried to steal this one, even though I'm not done with it yet. And this keyboard is designed as a luxury item. So we've got a actual wood inlay on the keyboard. The mouse has a leather top cover. The keys, I wish they were more metallic, definitely have a metallic feel and appearance to them. We've got this nice engraved Azio Retro Classic nameplate with the company founding date on it. And overall, it's just designed to be a luxury item. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be a good keyboard as well. And after, what has it been, like 4, maybe 6 months, I haven't had any real complaints with the keyboard. As far as a typing instrument goes, I still like my Model M better. It's probably going to be a cold day in hell when I say that I find a keyboard I like quite as much as the one that I've used for a decade now, maybe longer, and is as old as I am. But this is a good keyboard, and I definitely wouldn't be upset using it over the Model M from a typing perspective. From a gaming perspective, I can see where some people prefer a million different switches, and these specifically, let's bring up the full proper name, Azio Type Light Mechanical Switch by Kali Tactile and Clicky. So if you like tactile, clicky, Kali switches, you'll probably like the Type Light switches. Now, these are custom for Azio. They've got that center lit LED that helps illuminate things properly. It's not on the top, it's not off to the side. And I think even the space bar is backlit, although there's no light coming through the space bar. So they include an LED in every single key switch. That does mean you're not going to be able to get custom keycaps, which for some people is a detractor. These are already custom keycaps. Alright, so that's some of the technical stuff. Couple of other things. Let's talk about the keyboard. Has these adjustable knob style feet, which I quite like. I wish they got a bit taller than they do, but overall I like the design. I like that I can dial them to where is appropriate for me, although they do have a stop at the maximum and minimum. I like using USB-C for charging. Both devices are fully modern in that they use USB Type-C. That's all great. That's all numbers. None of that's feel. So let's get what you've probably been waiting for out of the way. I've got Monkey Type open. Well, let's finish talking about the other side of the equation. The mouse, unlike the keyboard, is a lot more basic than I would like it to be. Like the keyboard, could I say, oh, it doesn't have a volume dial or extra macro keys? yes, I could say those things and I'd be technically correct, and at the end of the day, it's a good thing it doesn't have those for who its target audience is, which we'll get to at the end. The mouse, on the other hand, has a premium feel, just like the keyboard, and supports, all the things that we expect it to do. It's a PixArt optical sensor that supports up to 3000 DPI, and I can change the DPI using the sensor here, and the color will change, blue, green, purple, red. I think blue is what normally feels fine to me, and I don't remember which one off the top of those off the top of my head it is. I think that's the 800 DPI setting typically feels comfortable. That or the 16, depending on what system I'm on. 3000 DPI just feels kind of jumpy to me, but that's neither here nor there. There's no forward and back button. There's no keys on the side here. You get exactly 3 buttons. Left click, right click, middle click because the scroll wheel clicks. Overall, depending on what mouse you're comparing it to, that may not be bad, but compared to other mice in its price segment, that's pretty lackluster. So, and like I said, we'll get to pricing in a minute, but I did want to finish going over the features on the mouse first. So let's go ahead and do some actual tests. Let's go ahead and fire up OBS. Okay, I had to change to NVEC because I had it configured for Intel's QuickSync, and I don't currently have the IGP enabled. That's neither here nor there. So anyway, we've got Monkey Type open, and let's just go ahead and give this a go. Alright, well, that sucked. Let's try that again. Alright, that's a bit more representative. I had to adjust. It's not normally on this high bench. So, 85 words per minute. That gives you a decent sound of what the keyboard sounds like. It's not always quite so aggressive, but that's neither here nor there. Typically at my desk I can hit about 100, 110 if I'm really trying and sitting there typing test after typing test after typing test. These are comfortable numbers. I'm happy to see it perform the way it did, and that was all done over Bluetooth, and there was no input lag or anything like that, and we can fire up a game in a minute to look at that. In fact, we've got OBS up and recording already. Let's just run around inside Minecraft, which we're going to connect to the Pocketcraft server, which I encourage everyone to try out. Alright, it is raining and dark. There we go. Wonder if that threw me off in the typing test. I didn't get the spacebar locked in properly. So, yeah, I mean, Bluetooth is normally everyone's worst enemy here. And I'll check the latency between hitting space and jumping, but I'm not feeling anything that's making me go, oh my god, this is terrible, which is honestly what I expected. Now, I'm not playing a competitive first-person shooter, and maybe life would be different if I was here trying to get the very last frag running around at QuakeCon. But that's not what this keyboard's for, and like I said, this was just a quick, hey look, this works, and isn't terrible, and it's what I wanted to show. Now I'm going to rebury Steve here, so that nothing kills him when I connect next time. Alright, now, I touched on price was kind of critical for both of these. From Azio directly, the Retro Classic Bluetooth Elwood, which is this particular color, I think all the colors actually, is $219. The Retro Classic mouse is $100. And here's where that puts these. I have talked about $200 keyboards before, and they're a luxury item. And in the case of the Craft, when I spoke about it, I said it came down to your workflow. So with that, if the dial saved you enough time that you could measure the amount of money that you saved, well, it would work out eventually to covering the cost of the keyboard. The Retro Classic doesn't have any bells and whistles to do something like that, although it does have a couple of features that could potentially help in that department. So it does support, as I mentioned, Bluetooth and USB. It also supports switching between PC and Mac. So if I had two PCs that I interacted with regularly, or if I had a PC and a Mac on my desk that I switched between because I was some sort of dev testing, both the Retro Classic Bluetooth and the keyboard and the Retro Classic mouse, well, they can pull double duty because I can connect them to both, and I can switch on the mouse here between Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz, just like I can the keyboard, mouse, Bluetooth, and USB. So that's cool. And that's an edge case, but if that saves you buying, say, two $100 mechanical keyboards, okay, neat. It justified a $200 price tag. The other department is, it looks nice. Aesthetically, you probably look at your keyboard about as much as you look at your monitor. And if you have a keyboard somewhere where it is visible to clients or guests, it may be in your interest to get one that looks nice. Now, when I say looks nice, what I'm saying is that it looks a whole lot better, at least in my opinion, than something like a Logitech K120, which, as you can see, this one's been through hell and back. It's got, I think, thermal paste on the keycaps. Is a perfectly fine keyboard, and if all you cared about is typing, that's great. But as you can see, you know, some of the keys are worn off. None of these have been worn away. There's, in fact, zero sign of wear, nor will there ever be because of the way these are built. So we have black plastic with clear plastic that appears to be injected twice for each key. And I will actually send them a note to confirm that if these are double shot, because they don't specify. But, so we have a wood or a leather veneer. I think one of the models, the Posh maybe, has like a white leather with copper. And the Artisan is black leather with copper. As opposed to the Elwood, which I really like the wood grain. Let me go back to that. So, appearance-wise, if you say, that's pretty and I want one, maybe the $200 price tag isn't a big deal. Now, and here's where I'll say it gets a little weird. I'm not going to recommend the Retro Classic mouse. There's got to be some other retro-ish mouse that you can find that matches this well enough that you wouldn't object to having the two seen next to each other. And I already told Azio, I understand why they didn't put buttons on the side. A traditional mouse with buttons on the side, like my Razer Mamba here, well, they're where my thumb is, and there's nothing on the other side, so now if I'm left-handed, the mouse is shaped wrong. So Razer's options there are either have two mice, or I just don't care about lefties. Which is fine. Those aren't necessarily bad options to have. Azio chose to go with a ambidextrous mouse, and I already suggested they could do something. Put one button on each side, put two buttons on each side, so that, I can select if I'm left or right-handed, and then this will be forward and back, and then just buttons 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, 6, 7. Take your pick there. There's options to do it that don't involve having to make two different mice. However, this is a big however. Right now, Azio is giving the Retro Classic mouse away for free if you buy a Retro Classic Bluetooth or compact keyboard from Azio. So $219 for this, or let's go back to the whole collection. $259 for the Retro Compact pre-order gets you a free $100 mouse if you value the mouse at $100. If you're not interested in the mouse, well, the keyboard is cheaper on Amazon, and actually the Elwood's not available direct. At $182 for that, or $179 for the Artisan, $219 for the Posh. So you actually only save anything on Amazon with the Elwood or the Artisan. So that's where that leaves me. Is that the Retro Classic Bluetooth at $220 is a luxury item. It does everything that it says it should, and I'm not going to count its price against it because it is priced for the market that it is targeting. And there are plenty of examples of other expensive keyboards that I'm not even going to argue about it. $219, it looks pretty. It was built to look pretty. Great. I've seen people spend way too much money on RGB and everything else for me to really worry about that beyond saying the mouse does not fulfill the functions that I expect out of a $100 mouse, although it works. It works. It's a mouse. It clicks. I haven't had any particular issues with it, but at work, I actually have one of those Razer Mambas because I got them for like $9 a piece. They're normally 70 or so. And I come home and I miss my forward and back button. Although it does click, and I can't say that about my Logitech MX Master anymore since the left click button stopped working on that. And that's also a $100 mouse. One thing I do want to touch on, and I should have started with this earlier, is, and let's stop OBS because we're done with OBS. Serviceability. Let's grab a screwdriver really quick. One thing I really like about this that I can't say about a lot of other Bluetooth keyboards that I've had is that although it does use a lithium battery, which means it's not AA's, whoa, that means it's not going to eat AA's, it's really easy to replace this battery. If I had something to pry it open with really quick. And that the battery, oh, I should have turned it off before I did that, is just double-sided taped into the bottom and then plugged in. Now, I asked Azio about this, and they don't list the battery on their website. However, if it fails inside the warranty period and you're comfortable saying, just send me a battery, they will do it. I did not get confirmation on a price. If I happen to get one of those while I'm editing this video, I will update that detail here. But from a sustainability standpoint, I really like this. And honestly, this battery pack, it's a 5,000 milliamp hour pack. Just a pretty typical pack. I could probably punch this number in to, I don't know, Amazon or eBay and find an K739. So if I just search for generic 5,000 milliamp hour lithium ion battery, I can find something similar. Probably wouldn't be my first choice if Azio can get me one directly, for about $30. So that's great. You know, this is not some proprietary connector. That's a pretty typical connector and probably easy enough to splice on if your battery pack, if you have to order one, if it shows up with a different connector. Overall, this was easy. I literally just took out 2 screws and then popped it open. If I was doing this as a repair, I probably would have already had a slotted screwdriver with me and it would have taken like a minute. So, good job Azio on making the battery pack easy to get to. The Retro Classic mouse does have a swappable top cover, but the battery pack appears to be hidden under a couple of hex screws, so not so lucky here, although I don't think that the Retro Classic mouse itself is particularly difficult to open. I do like that these are swappable. That is a nice feature. Not a spend $100 on a 2-button mouse feature, but a nice feature. Okay, so where does that leave us, I guess? Closing out, who's the Retro Classic Bluetooth keyboard for? Well, it's for people that either just want a really pretty keyboard or have a perception that they need to project that calls for a really pretty keyboard. So, and maybe for people who need 2 keyboards and really want to condense space on the desk, even though they've got 2 PCs or 2 Macs or a Mac and a PC. I don't know how common that particular scenario is where you'd also want to spend this much on a keyboard, but I will present it anyway. It's my typical opinion that if you're in that scenario, you're going to end up buying one good keyboard for the system you use most of the time and then one cheap keyboard. So, but fairness, it happens. There's got to be someone. For free, if you're ordering direct from Azio right now, and I think this is valid through next week, They said they told me it was valid through, I think, the 17th, I think. I'll double check. Well, I'm not mad. For $100, I'm not going to suggest you buy it. Like I said, there's got to be some other vintage style looking mouse that probably also fits the bill. Maybe not that matches the keyboard quite as nice, but they exist. That's all we have. I do want to say, or I do want to be clear that Azio sent both of these products out for review and have received no form of preferential treatment. I mean, guys, I told you that the main value for this keyboard is being pretty, not that it's going to get you an extra headshot. If you want pretty, it's hard to argue with. And I even told you don't buy the mouse. So we're as fair and balanced as we can be. I'm not going to promise that I can't be swayed, but I always try. One thing I almost forgot that I did want to give Azio credit for, a shout out for, and totally didn't even see it because of how clear it is. This keyboard came with a plastic cover on top of it. I realize this one's probably not as clean as it could be. Have found this an invaluable accessory. And I would love something a little nicer if they wouldn't mind building a sturdier one. But I have pets and I have plenty of dust. And I have found that when I'm not at my desk, being able to put this on the keyboard to stop paws from necessarily hitting any keys, or just keeping some of the fur out from between them, which I don't always remember to put it on, so I had an extreme amount of that to clean off before I started this video. This is great, and although I realize this is probably considered single-use plastic as far as the manufacturer is concerned, this is one of those instances where this piece of plastic is something that I'm happy to have. So, just wanted to add that. As always, I want to thank anyone who helps support Pocketables, either by using our Amazon affiliate links or supporting us on Patreon. It is support like that that helps make videos like this possible. I also want to thank Alextrix for providing our opening and closing themes. And finally, thank you for watching.